So you're back for some more network stuff. Well, good news is this is the last in the line of the series of videos. This one's on crashing, which sounds pretty dramatic, but it's not really. It's just simply where we alter completion times of activities on the network path. Let's get into it and see what it means. All right, we'll start off with an example, a fairly easy one. Now, from this network, now these are all the activities, A, B, C, D, and E. So there's 5 of them. And as you remember from the last one, each activity has a weight. So in this case, B equals 4, C equals 6, and so on. What we need to do is we need to find a couple of things. How long the whole project will take to finish and the critical path. What are the activities that the job relies upon to finish? That dictates what time it finishes in. So how do we do that? Yep, let's get our boxes around the activities, around the vertices, sorry, at the end and start of each activity. We start off, if you remember, this is the earliest start time. So we go through and finish, go through and fill out these boxes, I should say. Now we have to find our start vertex. Arrows both coming from there, come out of here, and both go into here. So start, finish. I'm not labeling on this one. All right, so we start with 0. We're going to go up the way. B takes 4 hours, let's say, doesn't have a unit on this one, so we'll put a 4 up there. C takes 6 on top of that, so 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 3. Now, I'm going to put this one up top, if you remember, because we have 2 paths merging here. We have to fill in the largest of the 2. Let's fill out the one down the bottom here. 0 to 5 gives 5. 5 plus another 9 gives 14. The larger of the 2 there is 14, so that is our earliest completion time of the project, 14 hours. Now to find the critical path, to do that, we have to work backwards. So we have the latest start time, start here, 14. And let's go up the way and see what happens. 14 take away 3 is 11. Take away 6 is 5. 5 take away 4. Well, again, we have the merging paths, so we put the 1 up the top. 5 take away 4 is 1. Then we come down the way. 14 take away 9 is 5. 5 take away 5 is 0. Smaller of the numbers goes back in the box here. So that is 0, which is what we want. So the critical path is where the numbers match up. There, obviously, at the start. There at the finish. And of course, down here, 5, 5. See how these ones don't match up? That's not the critical paths. So the critical path goes down the bottom and you write it as A to E. Now, a couple of things we can get, or a few more things we can get from this network. They're called float times. All right. Activity B here starts at 0 or can start at 0, but has to start by 5 so it catches up. So that means we've got a float time of 1. How did we work that out? Well, we take the latest start time there, take away the earliest start time. 1 take away 0 is, of course, 1 hour. Activity C. Right, same deal. Where does C start? C starts here. So our latest start time is 5. Haven't got anything above it. So this is just, you only get this above and below when you have a junction of edges of activities. 5 take away the 4. 5 take away 4 is, of course, 1. Activity D. D, again, where it starts. 11 take away 10, again, is going to be 1. All right. What that means is that overall, not all of them, but one of either B or C or D can be delayed by 1 hour. So that 1 hour is its float time. All right. But what about if we could shorten A or E by an hour? this comes down to 14. What if we took 1 hour out of one of these two? That would bring that back to 13, wouldn't it? That would be perfect. That means there's no slack time, no float time, no slack time, no wasted time. The job would finish right on time. Overall, as you see, it would decrease the overall project time by 1 hour to 13 hours, which is, of course, more efficient. Now, there's a word for that. Have you guessed what it is? Yep, it's called crashing. All right, so the simple definition is the duration of an activity is changed. Normally it's shorter, but it can be longer. This means you need to recalculate the minimum completion time of the project. All right. Now, important bit here, crashing only alters the completion time if the activity that changes is on the critical path. All right. If we shortened a D up here to 2, that wouldn't change the completion time, would it? It'd still be 14. Seems logical, doesn't it? The activity you change, you crash, has to be on the critical path. Okay, otherwise there are no time or cost savings. Let's have a look what that means. All righty. Now let's say we can shorten E, as it says here, by 2. So what that means is find E, so there's E, and we're going to shorten it from 9 back to 7. I made it red so we can follow and see where we're going. All right. What we need to do basically is reanalyze the entire network. So we'll get rid of all these things, except for the 0. We're obviously going to start at 0. So let's work our way around again. 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 plus 6 is 10. 10 plus 3 is, and we'll write it above, 13. Come down the way, 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 plus 7 is 12. Now, which one is longer, 13 or 12? Obviously, it's 13, so 13 is going in the box. So our new completion time is 13 hours instead of the 14. So we took 2 off there, which is great, but now we've got float time down the bottom. Anyway, so let's work backwards and see how much float time we have got. So latest start time or finish time, 13 hours. Again, we'll go back up the top. 13 minus 3 is 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 4 minus 4 is back to 0. Down the bottom, 13 minus 7 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. And of course, coming backwards, the smaller one goes in the box. So that is 0. So what we have here, remember this one down here was the old critical path. Where is it now? It's not anymore because we have float time here. The numbers don't match. So 0, 4, 10, and 13. Well, let's draw it. 0 to 4, 10. There's our new critical path, which is labeled activity B, C, and D, or just written like this down here. A couple of little points. Crashing can be used to optimize activity timing so that float time is minimized. So we want to shorten things if we can. Crashing can sometimes shorten the overall completion time. Can sometimes shorten the critical path. But the important one, again, it's only useful if it involves the critical path. Okay. I've said that a couple of times now. Remember, it's only useful if it involves a critical path. Let's go into a more detailed example now. Okay, this is pretty much looking like an exam type question. An indoor sports complex is to be built in Melbourne that has 9 facilities, administration, toilets, cafeteria, etc., etc. Now, A, T, C, S, I, V, and so on. You can see them all around the network, all different names. Most of the time that'll happen. The timing is in weeks of the construction process, and it's been mapped in the network. All right, first question. How long is it estimated to complete the entire complex? What do? we need to forward scan this. So let's do our boxes. Here we go, around with the boxes. So much quicker doing this on the computer, I'll tell you, rather than writing it. Sorry, guys. Start at the start with 0. Now let's work our way around the top, I think. 0 plus 4 will go in there. Let's go up. 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 4 is 11, but there's a junction there, so we'll put the 11 on top. Come down the way, join it up. 4 plus 4 is 8. I'll put it there rather than down the bottom. What goes in there? The biggest number, correct? So that's 11. 11 plus 2, well, there's another junction there, so we'll put the 11 plus 2, which is 13, up top. All right, that's our last junction. So it looks like we need to come back to get the other number here. We need to come back down the bottom. So we'll work. 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 3 gives us 8. It goes on the bottom. Which is bigger? 13, obviously. 13 plus 6 is 19. So that gives us the whole project taking 19 weeks to complete. That's not bad for a sports centre. Next question. If the volleyball courts could be constructed in 2 weeks, would this shorten the overall construction time? Now, what was that line I said? It's only useful if it's on the critical path. Well, we need to find out whether the volleyball, which is, oh, there it is, if the volleyball is on the critical path. Here we go. There's just a reminder. Now let's have a look. So to do that, we have to work backwards. Latest start time, 19. Coming back, 19 minus 6 is 13. Good so far. We'll just go the top way again. 13 minus 2 is 11. Okay, this is, yeah, that's critical path by the look of it. We'll go up. 11 take away 4 is 7. It's still looking critical path, isn't it? 7 take away 3, there's a junction. So 7 take away 3 is 4, goes on top. 11 take away 4 is 7, goes down the bottom. Smallest in the box is 4. Then 4 take away 4 is 0. It's not looking good for volleyball, is it? Okay, so back to here, we have to check. 13 take away 3 is 10. Definitely not on the critical path, is it? 10 take away 1 is 9. 9 take away 4 is 5. And of course, the 0 goes back in the start box. So, is volleyball on the critical path? That's the first bit of it. There's the second bit. There's the third bit. Now just stop here. Why didn't I go straight across here? Right, this is the critical path. In here, on this line, you can see I've got float time. Sorry, 4 and 7. That 4 and that 7. I've got a float time for this activity. So follow the boxes. If you've got one in the middle, use it. Let's see, back to 13 up here, and then off to the finish. There's our critical path. So again, does volleyball lie on the critical path? There it is. Definitely not. So as volleyball, so a statement you could write would be, as volleyball is not on the critical path, any reduction in time will not shorten the overall project time. Okay. What about the cafeteria? If it could be constructed in 3 weeks, would this shorten the overall construction time? Oh, there's the cafeteria. There it is. If we shorten that by 3 weeks, hang on, that's not on the critical path, is it? So same answer. As the cafeteria is not on the critical path, any reduction in time will not shorten the overall project time. All right, so last one. By how long could the construction time of the cafeteria be lengthened so as not to impact the overall construction time of the project? So for that, we need to check out the float time on the cafeteria. So cafeteria starts here. So that's the bottom line. So it's the 7 and the 4. 7 take away 4 is 3. So our answer would be the construction of the cafeteria can be increased by a maximum of 3 weeks without affecting the overall time. If it was 4 weeks, our critical path would then jump down here, not be up there. We'd have float time up there. It would be 4 weeks. Another 4 weeks on that would be 8. 4 plus 8 is 12. Let's see how that changes. All right. Couple more questions on this one. This is where we get in deep. All right. Often crashing is attempted when costs are involved. Okay, so we've got the same network. We've got the same numbers in there, haven't changed anything. So we're just going to have a look at this. Very typical, it appears some form of this appears most years in the end of year exam. All right, each week of building costs, the construction company, each week of building costs the construction company $100,000. The builders are required to remain on site even if they're not working, and this costs $70,000 per week. Okay, so you got a couple of costs there. One for actual construction, one for when the builders have to remain on site. What is the overall cost to the company for construction? Well, let's have a look at this. Construction is $100,000 and there's 19 hours. So we can just say $100,000 times 19 weeks is, well, $1.9 million. Now, remember, it's not just about the construction though. You've got $70,000 a week going to pay the builders who are sitting around doing nothing while they're waiting for other jobs, these jobs and this job to finish. Okay, that's float time, $70,000. So we have to work out the float time for every activity that's got float, got some slack. Let's start with C. So there's C's float time. 7 minus 4 is 3 weeks. All right, next one. Now, A is not on the critical path, so that's got a float time. There it is, 5 and 0. F's not on the critical path. That's got a float time of 9 minus 4 is 5 as well. So's V. Now, has each one of them got 5 float time? No, it's actually only 1. Okay, so we can take a little shortcut up here, as you can see. We have the 8 and the 13. So we've got a consecutive run here of 3 activities. So the most we can delay things here are, we've got an earlier start time for the next activity is 13. And sometimes you might see this written as a finish time of 8. So we can say 13 minus 8, which summarizes for all these 3. So down here, we could write A or F or V equals 5 weeks, which gives us a float time of 8 weeks at $70,000 is $560,000. Okay. Now, total $2,460,000. That's a lot of money. Now, what do we do now? We've got a lot of float time here. We've got 5 weeks of float time in there. That's a lot. We've got 3 weeks in there. That's a lot. I'm just wondering if there's a way we could bring that down a bit. So is the company, obviously. If the company could decrease the float time by redeploying builders to one other building for 2 weeks, which would be best? Okay, let's just bring these down. We'll keep a running total here. So at the moment, we're at $2,460,000. Let's have a look at C first, shall we? Let's say use some of the spare time at C to shorten I by 2. Just picked I randomly. I's out here. You can see that. It's on the critical path. So that was a big one. So if we use that 3 weeks in there, we pinch some builders and do some constructing of I, we'll sneak it in further back here, then we could save some time and money, surely. So let's see, I is 6. I needs to become 4, 2 hours off. Let's put that up there and see what happens. So we've got a start time here of 13. I is now 4. That comes down to 17, the earliest finish time. So that's good. That comes down to 17 there, and finish time there, later start time is 17 as well. So this comes down to 17 weeks. I've highlighted in red just to keep, so we can keep track. All right, now we have to go back and have a look at the float times. We've got to backtrack. Let's see, 17 minus 4 is 13. That hasn't changed. 13 minus 2 is 11. 11 minus 4 is 7. We're not changing the critical path, are we? All we've done is shorten the last activity. So that saved us a bit of money. So there's no changes to float. So no changes down here to the cost for float, except we've saved, what do we save? $200,000. So it's now back to $2.26 million. That's pretty good. I reckon there might be more though, so we probably do need to try another one. There's the hint up here. What should we try? Let's try and pinch something off down here. We only can save 2 weeks, so some spare people in V to G. Oh, sorry, A through V, and then try and shorten G. Let's try that. Well, G is in the middle there, so that's good. Let's try and shorten that. As you see, we've got 3 weeks to catch up there. If we can shorten that down, that might be useful. Let's have a look what happens here. So G was 4, now comes down to 2. Let's put G up where it needs to be. G is 2. All right. So if that's 2, we've got to change a few things. Let's see, the 7 plus the 2, that 11 now becomes a 9. 8, 9 is the longest one, so that becomes a 9. That's going to change that, isn't it? All right, so let's change that. In fact, that 9 is going to change that into, look, I'll be brutally honest, we're better off just clearing the whole graph, or virtually the whole graph. We can leave these early start times anywhere behind here, but realistically, when you're crashing and crashing effectively, you're better off clearing the whole network. All right, where we get up to 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. So 11 and 8, 11 obviously goes in there. We're at the junction, so we have to come back down here. 4, we've done that. Plus 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, so that's still okay. 11 or 8, that's good. 11 plus 6 is 17. Well, that hasn't changed much, has it? I'll change it down here though, just so we're in blue so we can see. That hasn't changed. All right, now we've got to work backwards. 17 take away 6 is, correct, 11. We'll do the top way. 11 take away 2 is 9. That's still critical path, isn't it? 9 take away the 2 is 7. 7 take away 3 becomes, well, that's on top again, so that's 4. The 9 here, take away the 4 becomes 5, which is 4, correct? The smaller number. 4 take away 4 is 0. That's on a junction, so it's up top. Just get rid of the ones down the bottom. 11 take away 3 is 8. 8 take away 1 is 7. 7 take away 4 goes down the bottom here, which is 3. And of course, the 0 goes back in the start. Right, let's see what that's done. So we've still got the 17 weeks. We've got that, but we need to check the floats, see if anything's happened to that. I think it has. All right, let's see. First float. Let's look back at C. So there's C. There's our float times. It was 3. 5 take away 4 is now 1. 1 week. That saved money. Awesome. Let's have a look at our next lot. It was 5. A, F, or V was 5. Now it's, we could look there. That's 3. That's 3. That's 3. Or remember, we can look up here. It's already circled. 11 take away 8 is now 3 as well. So what's happened? We've gone from 3 and 5 is 8 weeks. We've now saved 1 and 3 is 4. We've saved 4 weeks. So we're now at a total of 4 weeks. So that price has come down a lot too. And look what happens to the total. $1,980,000. It's almost $500,000 saving. Who wouldn't want that? I'd just like the $500,000. Sorry. All right. Now, I know that's a lot to take in, so I'm just going to leave you with a list of things that are involved in crashing. All right. So first one, when you use crashing when you want to change the length or the time of an activity or the weight of an activity. Second one, only changes the project length, the total length, if the crashed activity is on the critical path. Third one, it can change the critical path. Didn't in the last one, but it got rid of a whole heap of float time, didn't it? Well, that's a win too. That tightens everything up. Next one, it's used to help reduce the float time, as we just saw, and or minimize the cost. All right. Hope this has been helpful. I understand it's a pretty intense one, but go back through it, stop it at various spots, write the hints down, and get some practice. The more practice, the better. And ask your teacher too. All right. Have fun with crashing. Don't have any accidents though.